If you're new here, we show up weekly on Thursdays at 9 a.m. for about 15 minutes and talk about some common leadership challenges with actionable tips that you can implement right away. And so we always love to hear your thoughts and experiences. So drop it in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, you can do that as well. And we will make sure to respond to you. So today's conversation is all about change, and change is inevitable. We know that part at least is true. And depending on your personality, change can be really difficult. And for some, change can be embraced, but there's different ways we can approach change. And so for me, I love change. I was just talking to a colleague and saying, I love change almost to the detriment of wanting to have a lot of variety. But honestly, for a lot of teams, a lot of leaders, change doesn't always feel like growth or an opportunity. It can feel really overwhelming. It can be frustrating, a lot of uncertainty, and hard to lead through. So if you're a leader, you either have the perception that you are expected to hold it together, that you need to stay strong and provide clarity and keep everyone moving through change, even when you don't have all the answers. So I'm curious how some of you handle that. What is your tolerance, perhaps, to change? Maybe take a couple of minutes, jot some notes down. And just reflect, how do you lead through uncertainty without losing trust or momentum? I think one of the opportunities with leadership in action is taking this moment to reflect. A lot of leaders are, overscheduled in meetings all day and don't take the time to reflect. And one of the biggest mistakes I will often see with leaders is looking at or recognizing the emotional impact that change can have on an individual and on a team as a collective. So think about a moment of change that you've had recently that has had an impact on your team. How do you handle it? Maybe just jot some notes down on your reaction or response to change, and then how you share that with your team. So some of the things that we see, like I mentioned, overlooking the emotional impact that it has on the team. Leaders will sometimes try and control everything instead of meeting the uncertainty with agility. They're trying to control. You can kind of feel the shift as a team member or a direct report of your leader when they are under pressure, trying to either micromanage more or take control of things that they normally wouldn't have control over. And oftentimes, leaders will forget to communicate the why, which leaves people confused or resistant. And there's a level of transparency that a leader can offer to keep their team informed, so that they're not making up. If we leave people to their own devices, we can make up lots of stories in our heads that are not always true, often not true. So I want to share a framework that we use at Orca, the 4 stages of change leadership. So I'll acknowledge, I'll name the 4 first, and then I'll go into each one individually. Acknowledge, align, adapt, and anchor. acknowledge, align, adapt, and anchor. So with acknowledge, it's similar to our 4 A's. We're acknowledging what's happening. We, instead of ignoring it or thinking it'll go away, or if we don't talk about it, then maybe nobody will notice. That is a common kind of subconscious thing that happens that I talk to a lot of leaders about. So we name what's happening, recognize the emotions and acknowledge the emotions in the room. Everybody handles change differently. And so getting to know your team and how they operate is a really big piece of this. And then adapting, stay flexible, but keeping your steadiness during it. Noticing if you're more reactive versus responsive. And your own self-regulation is going to ripple out. So your team will take cues from you. And I come from the perspective, if you are unsure, that it's okay to say that, depending on the situation, depending on your relationship with your team, there's a level of trust that can be built in saying, we don't have all the answers yet. We'll keep in communication with you as we know things, and offer some clarity around the direction that you're going to go when you know what the next step is. So adapting is really staying flexible and steady at the same time. And then you want to anchor and reinforce that stability. Celebrate the small wins, celebrate the momentum that you have, celebrate the things that are going right in the midst of change. That can be really helpful in keeping, it's not a, stay positive for the sake of staying positive. It's real, authentic wins and small changes over time that can be helpful. Oh, and I think the one that I missed in there, so acknowledge, align. I didn't talk about align. Alignment is being very clear on the vision. That's a big piece that gets missed. There's usually an assumption that everybody knows the direction we're going or everybody knows the why. So connect the dots for people between the change and the purpose. And I know that can be really hard as a leader because perhaps your leader isn't doing that with you. So find the right people to have conversations with so that you can get some alignment. It doesn't need to be, again, staying flexible. It doesn't need to be the exact thing, but your organization, your team, your leadership should always have a clear vision and a clear why. Because really the fact of the matter is it's not the change that breaks teams or creates resistance, it's the lack of clarity. So let me leave you with one question. Again, a moment to jot some notes, and then we'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. So what is one leadership lesson that you've learned from a major change? One leadership lesson that you've learned from a major change in your organization. All right, hope you got something out of this today. Again, the 4 stages of change leadership: acknowledge, align, adapt, and anchor. And reflecting on one leadership lesson that you've learned from a major change. We will see you next week, Thursday at 9 a.m., and I'll be back here with Paul. See you then.